very interesting shape for a mountain. It is cone-shaped from one side and pyramid-shaped from another. And this is precisely the shape we see elsewhere in ancient Sumeria, ancient Egypt, various other ancient civilizations, whereby this pyramid-shaped object really is said to have some form of power, some kind of connection with the deity.
To date, nearly 7,000 people have successfully climbed Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world. Yet, there's another mountain, thousands of meters shorter and nowhere near the top 100 tallest peaks, that no one dares to tackle, even the most seasoned mountaineers. That mountain is Mount Kailash. Back in the late 20th century, a group of Siberian climbers attempted to conquer this mysterious peak. Their expedition came just decades after another team had tried, and completely vanished without a trace. However, what this newer group experienced on their climb was something out of a sci-fi horror movie. Just hours into their climb, they noticed something bizarre. They were aging rapidly. Their hair and nails had grown significantly, giving them the appearance of having lived on the mountain for weeks when they had only been climbing for a few hours. Alarmed and still far from the summit, they abandoned the mission and returned home, thinking life would go back to normal. Little did they know, normal was left behind the moment they set foot on Mount Kailash. Within a year of their attempt, every single climber from that expedition was dead. And if that wasn't eerie enough, the cause of death made it even stranger. They all died of old age. Somehow, the mountain had seemingly aged them decades in just a year.
In 21 days, I was in Kailash, trekked. My muscle mass had gone down, my legs had become like this. But my muscle mass went down so much in these 8 weeks, I just shrank like that.
Experts investigating the phenomenon suggest that Mount Kailash might not even be a natural mountain. With its nearly flawless slopes, some theorize it could be a man-made pyramid constructed by an ancient and highly advanced civilization. Some believe this civilization was divine, while others argue they might have been extraterrestrial. Determined to uncover the truth, I spent days diving deep into everything I could find about Mount Kailash. Articles, videos, and stories. The result? Far more questions than answers. It's easily one of the most puzzling geological mysteries on Earth. The mystery of Mount Kailash. Also called Kailash Parvat, or the Stairway to Heaven, Mount Kailash sits in the southwestern corner of Tibet. For centuries, this mountain has fascinated humanity for reasons far beyond its location near the border of China and India. There's something peculiar about how the number 4 seems to be tied to Mount Kailash.
Took one strand of what is there on that mountain, you won't believe. In 2.5 hours, I was almost 10 to 15 years younger than what I was at that moment. People around me will vouch for it, how suddenly I'm a different man.
For starters, 4 major religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Bon, regard it as a sacred site. But that's just the beginning. From Kailash, 4 rivers flow in the directions of the 4 cardinal points. There's the Indus River heading north, the Sutlej flowing west, the Brahmaputra heading east, and the Karnali moving south. Yet the oddities don't end there. Let's talk about what Mount Kailash actually looks like. Unlike typical mountains, it doesn't look natural at all. Now, to be fair, it's not the only mountain shaped like a pyramid. There's Pyramid Mountain in Alberta, Alpamayo in Peru, Musala Peak in Bulgaria, and many others. But unlike those, which have the rugged imperfections you'd expect from natural formations, Mount Kailash is different. Its sides are almost perfectly straight, as if someone intentionally crafted it with precision. Its symmetry is uncanny, with each slope perfectly aligned with the cardinal directions. Looking for something more strange? Each of the mountain's 4 faces is said to be a different color. The north face is golden, the south face resembles lapis lazuli, the east face is crystalline, and the west face is ruby red. Even the snow patterns are unusual. The northern slopes of Mount Kailash always have significantly less snow compared to its southern side, a rare phenomenon for mountains. Now, this might not seem strange at first, until you remember that in the northern hemisphere, the south side of a mountain typically gets more sunlight than the north. Naturally, this means the north face should have more snow since it receives less sunlight. But Mount Kailash defies this logic. Its northern slope has surprisingly little snow, while the southern side, despite getting more sunlight, is covered in glaciers and snowfall all year round. As if that wasn't odd enough, Mount Kailash is also home to a bizarre magnetic force field. Normally, using a compass is straightforward. The Earth's magnetic field operates like a bar magnet with clear north and south poles. But on Mount Kailash, all that goes out the window. Climbers report that compasses stop working entirely, with the needles spinning erratically and refusing to point north. And then there's the mountain's vegetation, or rather, the lack of it. Unlike most mountains, which have at least some plant life growing in their crevices, Mount Kailash is completely barren. Not a single tree, shrub, or even a blade of grass grows there. Now here's where it gets even weirder. On the mountain's south face, there's a striking symbol none other than a swastika. No one knows if it was carved by human hands or if it's a natural formation, but when the sun sets on this side of the mountain, the shadows created by the vertical ice cracks and horizontal rock layers form a left-facing swastika. Strangely enough, this symbol is considered auspicious in all four religions that revere Mount Kailash as sacred. But the swastika isn't the only religious imagery linked to Kailash. Satellite images reveal what appears to be the face of Lord Shiva, a prominent Hindu deity, etched into the mountain's surface. Additionally, the snow at the peak forms the shape of Om, a sacred syllable in Hinduism, regarded as the most powerful mantra. The mysteries don't stop there. From a geographical perspective, Mount Kailash is known as the navel of the Earth. It's believed to sit at the planet's exact center, or what some spiritual traditions call the axis mundi. What's even stranger is its precise distance from major global landmarks. Mount Kailash is exactly 6,666 kilometers from both Stonehenge and the North and South Poles. And if that doesn't already raise eyebrows, here's something rather mind-blowing. Its height from base to peak measures 13,332 kilometers, exactly twice the distance of 6,666 kilometers. Then there are the two lakes near Kailash, Mansarovar and Rakshastal, which are just as puzzling as the mountain itself. According to geological studies, these two lakes were once a single body of water, split apart by tectonic activity. On one side you have Mansarovar, a perfectly round freshwater lake, often compared to the sun. It's the highest freshwater lake in the world and is teeming with aquatic life. The next part is more unbelievable. Despite its altitude, Mansarovar never freezes, regardless of the season. Even more oddly, the lake remains perfectly still, no matter how extreme the weather gets. On the other hand, there's Rakshastal, also known as the Demon Lake. Shaped like a crescent moon, it's a stark contrast to Mansarovar. This lake is incredibly salty, devoid of life, and often turbulent. Locals even claim it occasionally vanishes entirely, leaving behind dry ground, only to reappear later as if nothing happened. Because of these eerie traits, it's often referred to as the Ghost Lake. But for all the strange features of Mount Kailash, none are as unsettling as the experiences of those who've tried to climb it. Beyond the chilling story of the Siberian climbers who mysteriously aged and died, others have reported terrifying and unexplainable encounters on the mountain. Unless you're a die-hard skeptic, it's hard to ignore the possibility that something, or someone, on Mount Kailash doesn't want anyone to reach its summit. Climbers attempting to conquer Mount Kailash have reported puzzling phenomena that defy explanation. Many claim they suddenly find themselves retracing their steps, as if the mountain somehow shifted or altered its position. Others recount being forced back by sudden, unexplainable blizzards or rainstorms that seem to materialize out of thin air. Some even experience a mysterious wave of illness, leaving them too weak to continue. Colonel Wilson, a seasoned mountaineer, shared his experience of being thwarted by the mountain. He explained, "Just when I discovered an easy path to the summit, heavy snow began to fall, making the ascent impossible." Sergei Tsistyakov, a Russian climber, faced an even more unsettling ordeal. He described his encounter saying, "When we approached the foot of the mountain, my heart was pounding. I was in front of the sacred mountain that has never been conquered. I felt extremely emaciated and suddenly captivated by the thought that I do not belong on this mountain, that I must leave immediately. As soon as we started the descent, I felt liberated. And it's not just humans who are deterred by Kailash's mysteries. Our technology hasn't fared much better. Even the most advanced aircraft cannot fly over the mountain. Pilots report encountering an invisible force that prevents planes from ascending beyond a certain altitude over Kailash. These strange occurrences leave us with more questions than answers. What could possibly explain the mysterious phenomena surrounding Mount Kailash? To date, two main theories attempt to address these mysteries. While both are thought-provoking and at times plausible, neither fully accounts for all the riddles this mountain presents. The extraterrestrial theory. The first explanation is what many refer to as the extraterrestrial theory, or even the ET theory. According to this idea, Mount Kailash is either an alien creation or perhaps an extraterrestrial spacecraft in disguise. This theory draws on Hindu mythology, which describes the gods as having a much more physical presence on Earth compared to deities in many Western religions. Hindu lore suggests that these gods lived on Earth thousands of years ago, predating humanity's existence. However, what makes this particularly interesting is the claim that these gods didn't solely rely on divine powers. They also used advanced technology. The ancient Hindu epic Mahabharata is filled with references to such technologies, including flying vehicles, known as vimanas, voice-activated weapons, and events that eerily resemble nuclear detonations. To uphold the ET theory, these accounts suggest that Mount Kailash could be a remnant of an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, or even serve as a hub for alien activity. The Mahabharata also speaks of a time in Earth's history when massive cities floated in the sky. Small vehicles descended from these cities, carrying teachers who interacted with humanity. Could these events, described in such vivid detail, be referring to encounters not with divine beings, but with extraterrestrials? If you're still skeptical, here's something to consider. Hinduism isn't the only belief system with accounts that resemble alien encounters. The Paiute people, a Native American tribe, tell stories of a highly advanced race known as the Hav-Musuvs. These beings were described as having golden skin, long dark hair, and wearing white garments and sandals. According to Paiute legends, the Hav-Musuvs rode in flying ships and wielded advanced weapons, such as a silver tube that could kill a man with one shot, an eerie parallel to modern depictions of phasers. That's three entirely different cultures: Hinduism, the Paiutes, and ancient myths from around the globe, all recounting stories that seem to hint at interactions with beings of extraordinary capabilities. Even if you're skeptical, dismissing these legends as mere coincidence seems a bit far-fetched. What if these ancient stories are actually pieces of a lost chapter in human history, one that involved extraterrestrial beings? Now that would be something, wouldn't it? The case for Mount Kailash's extraterrestrial origin doesn't stop there. To uncover more evidence, let's head to the Ellora Caves in India. Within this archaeological site lies the Kailasa Temple, a three-story marvel dedicated to Lord Shiva, believed to symbolize Mount Kailash itself. According to historians, this monolithic temple was constructed by carving out 400,000 tons of solid rock, an engineering feat that boggles the mind even today. The temple's intricate design, with its detailed carvings and symbolic architecture, would have required workers to chisel away 60 tons of rock every day for 18 years. Such precision and speed are considered impossible even with modern machinery. But the real mystery lies beneath the temple, a labyrinth of caves and tunnels. Some claim that these lead to a so-called super cave, rumored to house high-tech energy devices and other advanced artifacts from an ancient civilization. Could this ancient civilization have been extraterrestrial? And if so, could these same beings have used their advanced technologies to create Mount Kailash with its near-perfect symmetry? Ancient Sanskrit texts describe devices capable of turning solid rock into air, possibly explaining how such grand monuments were built. Whether you believe in the extraterrestrial theory or not, the evidence certainly raises some compelling questions. The supernatural theory. With Mount Kailash's puzzling features and seemingly unexplainable phenomena, it's no surprise that it holds immense spiritual significance for multiple religions. What is surprising, however, is when scientists begin to acknowledge findings that point to a supernatural explanation. Mount Kailash is revered as sacred by four major religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Bon. All four believe that a supernatural being resides within the mountain. Even skeptics find it challenging to dismiss the mountain's many mysteries as mere coincidence. From the face of Lord Shiva etched into its surface, to the Om sound reportedly heard near the mountain, to the yin-yang-shaped lakes at its base, Kailash defies logical explanation. Strange phenomena don't stop there. Bright lights are sometimes seen dancing above Lake Mansarovar near the mountain, and the shadow of a swastika appears on Kailash's surface at certain times of the year. In 1999, a team of scientists, led by the renowned Dr. Ernst Muldashev, conducted an expedition to Mount Kailash and reported unsettling experiences. Dr. Muldashev described hearing strange sounds emanating from deep within the mountain, including what seemed like the noise of a falling stone from its interior. Writing about his experience, he stated, "In the silence of the night, there often were strange gasping sounds in the belly of the mountain. One night, both my colleagues and I distinctly heard the noise of a falling stone that undoubtedly came from the interior." These occurrences convinced him that Mount Kailash wasn't just any mountain, it might be an ancient pyramid built by an advanced race of beings. Muldashev theorized that these beings were not only technologically advanced, but also understood what he called subtle energy, which might explain the mystical connection between Kailash and other monumental structures like the pyramids of Giza and Teotihuacan. Reflecting on his findings, he admitted, "It is hard for me to discuss this topic from a scientific point of view, but I can quite positively say that the Kailash complex is directly related to life on Earth. And when we did a schematic map of the city of gods consisting of pyramids and stone mirrors, we were very surprised the scheme was similar to the spatial structure of DNA molecules." According to Dr. Muldashev, there's an ancient Tibetan legend that says there's a city called Shambhala, also known as the City of Gods, hidden beneath Mount Kailash.
Это же огромная каменная ДНК. Так это же матрица жизни на Земле. Почему пирамиды? Вот если вы спросите любого молекулярного биолога, то он скажет, что триплет ДНК, триплет это как бы основная часть ДНК. Триплет ДНК пирамидаль.
This city, as the story goes, is home to a special reservoir that preserves the genes of ancient civilizations. What's fascinating is that one person believed his race's origins could be traced back to this mysterious place. And who is that person? You might know him as Adolf Hitler. In 1938, Hitler allegedly sent a team of 5 German explorers to Tibet to search for the roots of the Aryan race, which he considered superior to all others. Some reports even suggest that Hitler was particularly interested in finding the lost city beneath Kailash.
Хотел создать нового человека. Человека, который бы владел заклинаниями. Великими заклинаниями прошлого. Теми заклинаниями, когда, прошептав что-либо, можно было оторвать скалу и перенести ее взглядом куда-либо.
Legends say Mount Kailash is a sacred place, built by divine beings, and only those without sin can scale its peaks. What other explanation makes sense when you consider all the strange occurrences surrounding the mountain? Critical responses to the theories. As you might expect, there are some scientific explanations for some of Mount Kailash's mysteries. First up, the mountain's striking appearance. Yes, it does look almost too perfect to be natural, but scientists argue that the pyramidal shape of Kailash probably formed during the Ice Ages, around 2.6 million years ago. During this time, glaciers carved out valleys and shaped the steep, sharp-edged peak we see today. Now, about the mystery of why Kailash's north face has less snow than the south face. You'd think the south, which gets more sunlight, should have less snow, right? Well, it turns out that's not the case because the southern side of the mountain faces the Indian Ocean. This means it gets more moisture from the summer monsoons, which brings more snow than the dry northern side. As for the idea that planes can't fly over Kailash due to some supernatural force, that's not exactly true. The real issue is the challenging geography of Tibet. The region, known as the roof of the world, is over 4,000 meters above sea level, with some of the world's highest mountains. Technically, planes can fly over Tibet, but they usually avoid it because of the risk involved in an emergency. If a plane has a problem and needs to drop altitude, it would be dangerous in Tibet. The oxygen masks in planes only provide about 15 to 20 minutes of air, and there are no safe places to land quickly at such high altitudes. Emergency landings are just too risky here. which is why planes typically avoid flying over Tibet. So, while science can explain a few of Kailash's mysteries, there are still many that remain unsolved. More questions than answers. One of the most puzzling things about Mount Kailash is the strange aging phenomenon that seems to happen there. There was one scientific formula that almost cracked the case, but it ultimately didn't provide the answer, just like the mystery of Om. Geologist Kag Singh Valdia, a highly respected figure, suggested that the mysterious Om symbol on the mountain could be the result of rocks folding in a way that creates depressions filled with ice and snow. But the Om symbol on Kailash is just too perfect for this theory to hold up. Even the dot is on point. Another baffling mystery is the behavior of Kailash's lakes, Manasarovar and Rakshastal. They're located in the same area, but they act in completely different ways. Rakshastal, for example, is an endorheic lake, meaning it doesn't have an outlet, so the water either evaporates or seeps into the ground. That's why it seems to disappear and reappear out of nowhere. On the other hand, Manasarovar is not endorheic, so it loses water by flowing into Rakshastal, still exhibiting completely opposite behaviors. Finally, there's the time travel phenomenon people claim to experience on Kailash. Scientists say this could be explained by Einstein's theory of relativity, which states that time passes slower the closer you are to Earth. But even with that explanation, it doesn't really account for reports of people experiencing years of aging in just a short time on the mountain. Anyways, some scientists say this could be due to time dilation, where time passes slightly differently at higher altitudes, but the difference is so small it's practically unnoticeable. So how could people reportedly grow older after just a brief visit to Kailash? Perhaps the stories are just myths, or maybe there's some truth to them we don't fully understand. Whatever the case, if you were hoping to solve the mysteries of Mount Kailash, I've got some bad news. The Chinese government banned climbing the mountain in 1980. So, unless you're planning to break the rules, it looks like we'll never know what really happens at Mount Kailash.